Well, one of the fun things that creation speakers, educators like myself do is scan through the literature looking for things that are pertinent to the creation evolution controversy. We're accused of quote mining for things like this, but what we're really looking for is places where the evolutionist established scientific community admits some of the things that we've been claiming for decades. They'll do that when it suits them, and I found one here. And actually, I've never seen this in print before, but the evolutionists are admitting right here that the appendix, once dismissed, now is known to play a role in the immune system. Yep, it turns out, even though this article is all about how some of the structural features and protein nodules and things in the appendix are identical to the ones that's in the brain during Parkinson's. The point is here, they admit the appendix is useful. It was dismissed. Why would it, an important organ, you can live without it. I can live without my hand too, but that does not mean it doesn't have a function. Why is the appendix, why was it dismissed? Because it helped Darwin's theory sound true back in the 1900s and 1930s. In the 1930s, there was a list of about 180 human body structures that were called vestigial, which meant that they were vestiges of old organs left over from back when we were rats and fish and lizards, and we just don't use them, and they're disappearing like our pinky fingers should be disappearing, our pinky toes, and our appendix, of course. So many organs. You see, we were so arrogant, we thought, since we can't find a purpose for it, it must not have a purpose. And now, here we are, almost a century later, and we know every single one of those organs that was listed as vestigial, including the muscle on your collarbone. Now we find it has a purpose, every single one of them. So that throughout the old junk organs theory or the vestigial organs theory, that supported that evolution. Oh, these are just throwbacks from back when we used to be, worms and stuff like that. We don't use those organs back when we used to be lemurs and possums and things like that before we became placentals, and we used to be marsupials. And there's an ERV that they think that's an endogenous retroviral sequence that they think made the entire conversion from marsupial to placental, which is hilarious, but is still spoken publicly with a serious face. So many of these things. So then, since it finally failed them, you will still see this vestigial organ thing in textbooks all the time. They'll say that whales have vestigial legs, and so do snakes have vestigial legs. There's all kinds of stuff that's shadowy, but as soon as more information comes in, and the textbooks take about 50 years to catch up with the real data. As soon as more data comes in, it wipes completely away these illusions and fantasies and gray areas. Dr. Gary Parker, I heard him say, he's a creation science biologist, he said, evolution thrives in the absence of data only. It flourishes in gray areas only. As soon as light comes into these areas and data comes into these areas, evolution blows away like the ashes in the wind, like a house of cards. That's really true. So having failed with the vestigial organs, they went to vestigial DNA and called it junk DNA. In the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, it was proclaimed as, you stupid creationists, or anybody who disagrees with evolution must be stupid. Just like in the 1930s, they said you were stupid if you said that the vestigial organs were eventually going to be found to have a purpose. They said, you're stupid if you say that any of our DNA that is classified as 98% of it, which is junk, has no purpose, and it's vestigial DNA, throwbacks from back when we used to be fish and worms and reptiles and things like that. Well, in 2012, 2000, 2000, and 2005, and 2007, and finally in 2012, there were researchers that came through, like much of the vestigial organ, found out there's no such thing as vestigial DNA either. So the evolutionists have had to flee, but you'll still see it in all the textbooks. Junk DNA, you'll still hear it talked about. These are illusions, fostered by people who believe in a mythology, not a science, a mythology driven by their extreme hopes that their secular worldview is true. So they're not thinking, they're just wishing. You keep thinking. God bless, Dr. J.